How Russia and everything else going on here in the United States could crush Social Security and negatively impact Social Security beneficiaries. I have all the details and what you need to watch very closely right here in this video. Let's get into it right away. But really fast before we do, thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe by hitting that button right down below the video, as I'm watching everything closely, as I am your one and only daily advocate, and I'm here to help you out in any way that I possibly can, as well as make sure that you're staying updated with everything going on during this very busy time. So again, thanks so much for joining me. Please make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and let's get right into the video. Alright, so first off, before we get into this, I just want to make it very clear, I am not creating this video to instill fear in anybody, but rather I am a realist and I like to look at situations objectively to see how it is going to impact us, whether negative or positively. So let's get into it and talk about a few things that I want to point out here with what's going on right here in the United States, as well as what is going on globally and how that could impact Social Security as a whole and, of course, Social Security beneficiaries. All right, so first off, let's start out with talking about the obvious. All right, so stick with me on this one for just a minute here, and of course, we will get into multiple more points in this video as well. So first off, between Russia and Ukraine, according to the reports, these two countries alone account for about 14% of the global wheat supply, not to mention all of the other grains that they also produce as well, including barley, corn, and other grains. Well, as a result of everything going on right now globally and between these two countries, a lot of that supply of these grains is actually locked up in these countries, and it is not getting out into the global supply. Therefore, as a result of that, it is going to negatively impact the global food supply as well. So here's the thing. If there is less barley, wheat, and corn to go around, that means that it just means that there's less supply out there to produce all the foods that we need on a global basis for everybody globally, therefore driving prices higher on the limited amount of supply that we do have out there available. So here's the thing. Regardless of whether it's here domestically or it's globally, we all get one growing season a year. Now, maybe in some regions around the world, there may be a couple different growing seasons throughout the year, but generally, there's one growing season in the calendar year for each country, generally. Now, here's the thing. We kind of got to take advantage of the one growing season that we get. If we get a bumper crop, then great. We have more supply that we can dump onto the market, and ultimately, it'll lower prices for food. However, in this situation where two major producers of grains that we need are pretty much out of commission right now, or they're not able to export those grains into the global food market, that just means that's a huge percentage of the grains that we need for the global food supply that's not making it out there. Therefore, we're missing out on a huge supply of wheat, barley, and corn. And of course, wheat is in a lot of stuff out there. If you've ever looked at the ingredients of pretty much any product out there that contains like a carbohydrate type of food, like cereals, breads, pastas, like anything that's like a carbohydrate, just look at the ingredients list. You'll probably see any of those on there. Wheat is a very big one, as well as corn and barley as well. Not to mention, a lot of these grains are also fed to livestock, and we know what livestock is, right? Again, more food for people, right? So again, it's a big old circle, and you gotta watch all this stuff very closely. Now, how does this translate into Social Security beneficiaries? Well, unfortunately, it translates into higher food prices. Now, this is impacting everybody, but the deal is we all recognize right here in this community that higher food prices means you're paying more for the same old things, and your fixed income benefit is not going as far, just like we've talked about recently, depletion of purchasing power, right? So anyway, that is point number one that I wanted to throw out there really quickly. Next, I want to throw this out there. Let's come back domestically now, here in the United States. Let's quickly talk about all of this massive inflation going on. As long as we're talking about increased prices on food, let's talk about inflation as a whole across the entire country. Now, the last report that we got came in at 8.5% as a result of the CPI number. Well, let's look at this a little bit more closely now. As inflation continues to move significantly higher, if we continue to see inflation very elevated between July, August, and September, these are the 3 months that are used to calculate the cost of living adjustment for Social Security beneficiaries in the next following year. So next year will actually be determined by these 3 months, July, August, and September, and the inflation data. Here's the problem. Let's just say that the COLA comes in very, very high. Let's just call it 9%. Again, we don't know what it's going to be quite yet, but just hang with me for this example. 9%, and according to what the reports are saying and what the Senior Citizens League is saying, as well as other advocacy groups out there, they're anticipating we could be seeing around a 9% number. Although it sounds good on paper, yes, great, we're going to get a nice big raise on our Social Security benefits as a result of the COLA raise next year because of all the massive inflation. Looks good, but then again, we've got to pay attention to one more thing here. As the cost of living adjustment is actually adjusted significantly higher, do you understand what this means? That just means that benefits are going to be bumped up significantly, therefore, more money being pulled out of the Social Security Trust Fund. As a result of that, the likelihood of that trust fund depleting even more quickly and possibly becoming insolvent actually just moves up that timeline. As of right now, according to the reports, they're projecting that the trust fund will be completely depleted by 2033. Well, with a massive cost of living adjustment, that just means more money being pulled out of the trust fund every single month. So you kind of see what I'm saying here? A big cost of living adjustment is good, but at the same time, for a variety of other reasons, it's actually not the best thing in the world, right? Because not only does it deplete the Social Security Trust Fund a little bit more quickly, but we also do know as well that it generally leads to a higher Medicare Part B premium. It also leads to a decrease in your SNAP benefits if you're somebody receiving Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, as well as the depletion or reduction of other benefits you may be receiving, like utility assistance, or housing assistance, things like this. So it's kind of one of those situations where it's good, but yet it's also kind of not that good, right? So that's something else that we got to watch very closely going forward. So as you can see here, just with these few points alone, you can see that the global situation going on right now between Russia and Ukraine, as well as what's going on here domestically between inflation, it's all kind of a good thing, but at the same time, it's maybe not like the best thing in the world, right? So we can kind of understand what is actually going on between the cost of living adjustment, inflation, rising food prices, essentially everything else that's out there right now. There's a lot of different things, right? Coming back to the trust fund for just a minute, as we just discussed, as of right now, the reports are suggesting it would be completely insolvent by 2033. However, we also need to take into account in the event that the trust fund becomes insolvent, whether it's in 2033, whether it's in 2030, or it's in 2025. We don't really know when that's going to happen, especially with everything going on right now. Here's what also is one other thing we gotta watch very closely. Unless Congress comes forward and does something very significant here going forward to actually increase the solvency for many more years to come in the Social Security Trust Fund, it's going to result in about a 22% reduction in monthly benefits. Let me give you a quick example. Let's just say that you're receiving right now a $1,000 monthly benefit. And again, I'm just using this as an example for easy math purposes and for round numbers. All right, so if you're currently receiving a $1,000 monthly benefit, great, sounds good, right? But in the event that the trust fund becomes insolvent, therefore, they can no longer pay out all the promised guaranteed monthly benefits, but rather they're only paying out what they're bringing in from payroll taxes that they collect on an ongoing monthly basis. Check this out. If they're only able to pay out 78%, that would reduce benefits by 22%. So let me tell you the numbers. If you're receiving a $1,000 monthly benefit, all of a sudden, in the event that the trust fund is completely depleted and they can only pay out payroll taxes, then your $1,000 benefit would be reduced down to $780, a reduction of $220 every single month. Can you see the urgency behind this? Yeah, it's a big deal. That is a big, big deal. This is a time right now where benefits need to be increased, not decreased, in a big, big way. So as you can see here, Social Security has some major problems ahead of it, but the one thing that we have on our side right now is time. We do have time, a little bit more time, but if Congress blows it and they don't do something, then we could be in for a big, big situation going forward. But the best thing that we have going for us right now is they have years to get this thing done, as of right now anyway. But according to what is going on as of right now, as in the current situation globally, here domestically, that could be reversed very, very fast. One more thing I want to throw out there as well. The United States is basically sitting on the proverbial cliff of a recession, right? So it's basically kind of teetering on the cliff of a recession. Well, here's the problem. if there happens to be a recession that hits right here in the United States, which according to everything that we're looking at is probably very, very likely. Well, what happens with recession? Well, generally, a lot of companies and businesses close down. There's a lot of bankruptcies. There's a lot of closures. There's a lot of layoffs. In other words, people losing their employment. Well, once again, this is going to smack Social Security in not a good way. Here's why. As we know, as somebody who's working, again, you've probably all experienced this, as you were working, as you looked at your paycheck, there was a percentage of your money that was taken out every month from Social Security payroll taxes. Well, the employer also pays a portion of that on the behalf of the employee. So the total amount of Social Security taxes, half is paid by the employee, half is paid by the employer. Therefore, the over 12% goes to Social Security into the trust fund. Well, what happens if, let's just say, 1 million people are out of work? That means it's 1 million less people that are paying into Social Security taxes, therefore funding the Social Security Trust Fund, therefore potentially allowing it to deplete even faster. Can you kind of see what I'm saying here? And again, I'm not trying to scare anybody. There's nothing that's going to happen right now today. Nothing will happen probably in the next 2 or 3 or 5 years. But my point is, something could happen at some point here relatively soon. And when it does, if Congress does not act, we could be looking at a pretty bad situation. So anyway, there's not only global pressures right now, but there are also domestic pressures right here in the United States as well. Kind of see what I'm saying here? Anyway, I could keep going on and on, but these are a few different aspects and a few things that I wanted to point out that we need to watch very, very closely going forward. Anyway, hope this one helps you out. And again, I am not here to alarm anybody. I'm not here to scare anybody. I'm not here to instill fear. All is good to go. If you're receiving monthly benefits right now, please don't worry about it. Please don't lose any sleep on this. As of right now, we are probably years down the road from any type of major disaster. But again, Congress, it's all in their hands. And if they blow it, it could be a really big situation going forward. So anyway, Congress, if you're watching, you got to do something. You got to do something fast here. People are really struggling and they need some extra benefits. So anyway, we want to see raises to monthly benefits. We don't want to see reductions of 22% or greater to monthly benefits simply because of inaction on Congress. Anyway, hope this one helps you out. Again, please make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share this video with your friends, family, social media, and go back and check out any of the other 2,400 videos right here on the channel. Thanks again for your support. I truly appreciate it. I'm here for you in any way that I can be. Enjoy your day, and I'll catch you again later in the next video. I'll see you for now. See ya.